Hey, yo, what up, niggas? Triple. Yo, I'm like, yo, I was gonna get on the video and flame homeboy, dog. I was gonna flame him, dog. Cause hey, even your friendly neighborhood fighting game Messiah makes a big, humongous mistake, and the internet drives him for it, memes him for a week and a half. You thought I wasn't gonna get nothing in on this motherfucking ass? But hey, shit happens. It seems he's learned his lesson, if there was even one learned. I had something to say about the soft niggas he hang out with, but the only thing I know about them is that one two best friend video I saw when they was acting like soft ass niggas. So what the fuck do I know? Because that's not why the fuck we're even here. That's not even why we're here. Why are we here? That's the question. The question I probably have been asking myself for 32 years and still don't know. Wait, I remember now. Street Fighter 5. That is why we're here. Urian came out, let me look at a calendar, the 22nd, which was a what computer? That was a Thursday. Thank you, Betsy. Daddy appreciates it. According to Betsy, the 22nd was a Thursday. And Urian came out. So, season 1 of Street Fighter 5 is over. And I have been waiting for weeks and months to talk about what I would like to see in a season 2 of Street Fighter 5, if that should even happen. When I think about it, I've always had like general ideas of what I want to see come from this cycle of what is Street Fighter. Since like we found out how the game works, because let's just be honest here. Two things. First of all, I haven't touched Ultra Street Fighter 4, which means I've never played Omega Mode. I've only heard about it and watched the little video that I uploaded about it however long ago that was. And again, you know I ain't got no PS4 or a version of Bessie that can play the damn game, so I haven't played Street Fighter 5, so all I get is the minutia from watching it from various sources and stuff, and I don't know how to sit up here and tell you, like, well, they should do this to this character and this to this character, because I have no right to speak on that because I ain't played the damn video game. So we won't even do that. However, though, I do want to start at the beginning. I do. I want to start at all the way to the beginning. Like when we first understood how the game worked and how it was going to work, especially when it came to Chun-Li, because she was the first character that made me understand like what exactly I need from this game and a game that spin off of it to do. When I found out that Chun could do legs in the air, it's like, yeah. And then when, you know, Nash got the moonsault shell, and it's like everybody got versus moves, and Geese can do a SPD in the air, and it's like Street Fighter 5 is really leaning heavy into its versus into the history of fighting games with its versus series stuff that it's trying to do, and I think that's where I want like whatever to come or whatever is going to be the Street Fighter Cross Tekken of the Street Fighter 5 era. Is that's what I need. It's like I think as a people, I think we're ready for what a really good Capcom fighting jam could be. I think that's where I am right now. I think that's what I need, like whatever the offshoot of Street Fighter 5 is that Capcom versus Capcom game that can't be the Marvel that you want, because I don't know like how far you could go with that, but you could like straight offshoot and let Street Fighter 5 get extra dumb, and you can either do that by having a season where you bring in a whole bunch of guest characters, because I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with like the things that are posted on the Japanese version of the CFN and then they're translated and posted on the front of SRK and blah, is that they have done a lot of world building, and it's like for someone like me, and y'all know your boy appreciates this shit, is that I could appreciate all the world building and retconning that is going on for a series that no one but me gave a shit about the story for years on years on years on years. Yeah, that's what I want to go with. Years on years on years on years. We're going with that. So it's like it like blew my mind, like when the Capcom Fighting All Star shit came out and they did the looks at Dee Dee, Rook, and Ingrid, and showed that Akuma and Dimitri was supposed to be hitting boss characters and all this stuff, is that I don't think, honestly, it would be a stretch for them to do another story mode because, again, we jumping all over the place at this point, is the Street Fighter V story mode, because I watched it, because I ain't played it, so I watched people play it, and what I got from it is that even though it was a little weak in most places, it did the one thing it was supposed to. Street Fighter V build the bridge to Second Impact. That is the only thing the story is supposed to do. Bison is supposed to die. Gil is supposed to rise the fuck up. That's all that's fucking supposed to happen. And that story mode did both of those things. So where they go from this is that, again, like I was just talking about Capcom Fighting All-Stars, is that the whole Bombs in Metro City thing, you could do a story mode about that, albeit abridged a little bit, if, you start, because, again, I'm far reaching this stretching, but look at the Kanzuki B stage. It has Tiffany Lords and Hanada Wakabe in it. So it's not really a far stretch. Is that if you get a season where they want to tell the Capcom Fighting All-Star story, where you get Batsu, you get Akira, possibly Poison, maybe Strider, retcon it a little bit and have Nash in there for shits and giggles and make it his own offshoot weird story, and then start just bringing in the crossover Capcom characters into that. If they want to keep it like in Street Fighter V to like expand the roster, because one of the first things I early thought about like Street Fighter V is like, when is Morgan going to be in this? Like, because she is the character, given her tools and moveset in the various Vampire games, would be the character who would be the easiest to transplant into and make a better character in Street Fighter V out of her. Because if you wanna be cheap as fuck with it, take her savior form, take her vanilla savior form, drop it in there, make her Dark Force or V Trigger, and there you go. There's a character. There's a character. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know what you would do for V Reversal, because her guard canceled with the Shadow Blade, so you would just give her something. It don't seem that hard to me as a thing you could do, but I really want to see Street Fighter like branch off, because again, it's like Street Fighter V, like on paper, when you really look at the history of the series and the things that have offshooted from it, is that Street Fighter V is like a far stretch from anything else Street Fighter has ever done within itself. And this is even given how Street Fighter Cross Tekken was this loose interpretation of Street Fighter 4. So you could, like, if you think about it, like, you could imagine, like, what a loose interpretation of Street Fighter V would be if you let them go nuts in a Capcom versus Capcom scenario. Like, the characters you could bring in, because at this point, if I think about it, of all the characters you could bring in, I only have two requests for real. John Talbane and Mei Ling from Mei Ling from what's that game? That's Red Earth, because she's the only character from Red Earth to never cross into anything, and John Talbane never gets any love ever, and I don't really get that. Is that even when you think about Capcom Fighting Jam, is that the Darkstalkers roster was Fifi, who is that? Fifi, Anacaris, Jetta, and Dimitri. And it's like, that was strange, given, like, that game didn't have Ken in it. The game didn't have Morgan in it. And it's like, that was like a cool roster. It's like I could talk about Capcom Fighting Jam's roster all day, about how maybe you could have, picked somebody that wasn't Hydron, but tell that to people who play Hydron, because Hydron's a fucking monster. But Hauser was cool, and, you had the Alpha cast, and it's like, Corrin is like, what? Depending on what day of the week it is, probably the best character. Second, maybe behind Jetta, possibly, with Anacaris somewhere weirdly in there, and the rest of the Alpha cast, like, in the top 10 of that roster. And the Street Fighter 2 characters, they aight. The Street Fighter 3 characters suck, kinda. And then Ingrid, she alright, and and then there's no reason to talk about either Pyron or Shinakuma because they're bosses. So I don't know. We're gonna have to play some Capcom Fighting Jam. I've always wanted to get down a Diary of a Game Horn, a Triple Guide explains it all, because that game not only needs to be covered for the history that it represents when it comes to Capcom Fighting All Stars, but understanding and really understanding that people write off Capcom Fighting Jam as just a fucked up bad fighting game, and it's that game is good in places where it has no sense being, when a lot of it is bad, because it's this is the same video game we're talking about where Anna Karis from Darkstalkers is one of the best characters in the video game. Now, admit it enough. Anna Karis is one of those characters, if you think about very dynamic fighting games that have wild trailers, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 and is the same example, because there are players who make characters look better than they actually are on paper and in actual theory. Anna Karis is one of those characters. Go watch some Savior matches of Mighty Mart, dog. I'm you ain't believed in Anna Karis before. Watch that man play. He'll make you a believer. It's a whole bunch of characters in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 that are tier list of shit, who win matches in tournaments who have no business winning them, but the players make the character better. So in situations like that, when you really think about it, is Capcom Fighting Jam in that sense, it's not all bad, but a lot for years, and I will say this, and we are kind of off topic at this point, but for years I looked at Capcom Fighting Jam and I was mad at it. I was legitimately how the fuck is a human being mad at a fucking video game? But I was a human being mad at a video game because it wasn't what I wanted. It took me years to really sit down with Capcom Fighting Jam and enjoy it for what the fuck it was. And it was really one of those first games I really took a right turn on. Because I was straight for years this game alright, but it's not that game I really, really, really wanted to fucking play. And it made me angry. But then when I started to understand Capcom Fighting Jam for exactly what it is, for all of its tier craziness, and how the systems work between each of the 5 casts in that game, because it is 5, let me see. Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter Alpha, Red Earth, and Darkstalkers. Those are 5. Technically, how do you want to put Ingrid as a cast of a character in that game, or is she the author of the Capcom Fighting All Stars, and what Akuma, the Street Fighter 2 character, and I don't know. But all in all, Capcom Fighting Jam was a game that I took a right turn on, and it's a game that I love now. It is a game that I deeply have a respect for exactly what it offers and nothing more than that. I understand that as a gamer I have to look at it and know the game isn't as good as it should be, but the minutia of everything that makes it up would make for something amazing spun off of Street Fighter 5. It's like Capcom versus Capcom and beat triggers and crazy shit. It's technically, when I sit up here and think about Street Fighter 5 right now, Street Fighter 5 is the savior you didn't know you had until you really think about it really hard and strain a brain muscle oh shit. Because again, and I will say this, Vampire Savior is probably the most important fighting game ever to exist that's not Super Turbo, and that's live. I'm going to tell you that there are a couple of fighting games that are important as our evolution as fighting game players. You got Super Turbo, you have Vampire Savior, and you have Virtual Fighter. Those 3 games. Everything you love about a fighting game is found in one of those 3, and most of these offshoot off of Street Fighter. And then you got Virtual Fighter that does the 3D shit that kicked that off, and you have Vampire Savior that is responsible for every anime fighting game in fucking existence. So there you go. And then it's this is the point where he realizes that he got off the fucking point. But is there a point really? Actually, there is. And I'm going to completely forget everything I just spent 10 minutes talking about, 10 minutes plus actually, because I ain't looking at the damn clock or the recording machine. Is now, let's get to the point of it. Again, what do you do with Street Fighter 5 now? Because let's think about it. Game came out in February. Just now, you have maybe respectively a 60% of a fighting game. 60-70% if we're being nice here, because you have a cast of 22 characters, and I'm not a person who really gets down in numbers, because that was the reason for like 5 seconds when I was being stupid why I hated King of Fighters 12, because the cast wasn't what I was used to. But that game is better than anybody gives it credit for. But anyway, let's think about it like this. At this point now, when we talk about when Urian coming out, is that just now a lot of what Street Fighter V could have been if it had more time in the oven is now coming together. You got a cast of 22 characters. The season pass you bought that wasn't worth shit is kind of worth a little something now. The stages that we've known that have had transitions for months because people hacking the PC version or doing all this so cool shit. And, you know, and outside of the game, you have the CFN building this world. And that's the topic we was on earlier. But I want to get back on that for a minute. Is that when you think about what the CFN is doing, and with the reason of my efforts of making this video, which made me glad that I waited, was all the stuff that the CFN is trying to canonize, retcon, or say it's not canon. It's like one of the big things that we always knew wasn't canon that they got out there and said, no, that's not canon. Street Fighter 2010, the final fight. That game was never canon. It was then localized super fucked up, and to put a character that had no business being in a story in the first place, because when you think about why did they name the game Street Fighter 2010 the final fight any damn way, when that could have been his own IP. Also, in a weird, strange, accident purpose sort of thing that I actually thought about before I made this video, was Marvel vs. Capcom 2 now makes a whole bunch of more sense now when you really think about Sansan and Ruby Heart. Because if you don't know, the Sansan in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is the granddaughter of the original Sansan from the arcade game. We now know, at least in this version of Street Fighter V, Ruby Heart is related to the main character of Pirate Ship Higemaru, which brings the whole, why would Ruby Heart be leading a team of Capcom fighters and Marvel people and having Sansan in there, but we still don't know where the hell Amingo came from. The only thing I remember about Amingo was Seth Killian said that he was supposed to be, he was a rejected character design from a beat 'em up that Capcom was working on post Battle Circuit, and that's all I remember from that. And no one is speaking of Amingo since then, and we probably shouldn't. The 2 seconds I tried to learn to play Amingo and then dropped him for God knows who. Because if I think, because we're gonna take 2 seconds. Let me think about this. I was playing Amingo on a Psylocke team with somebody else. I can't think of it. I think I was still, trying to figure out my Cable team at that time. So it probably was Cable, Psylocke, and Amingo. But then that Cable team ultimately ended up being Cable. It was actually Rogue on point, Cable in the middle, and Juggernaut on anchor. But I would actually switch Juggernaut so he could do the Ciderec power up, and I would tag in the rogue and just keep doing Juggernaut punches and shit, because they brought that over in Marvel 3, which was a glitch in Marvel 2, but another conversation. Anyhow, speaking of the CFN and stuff, is that we talked about Capcom Fighting All-Stars earlier and the things they could possibly do with a Season 2 story mode and stuff, which would be excellent to see, because the story of Capcom Fighting All-Stars could be done in Street Fighter V. Like I said, if you exclude some of the characters, make them non-playable characters, because I don't know if you can have a game that has both Mike Hagar and Zangief playable at the same time. You probably could, but why would you? You know what I'm saying? Like I said earlier, what? Batsu and Akira, Poison, Strider. You got Nash and them. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know who else you would bring, but I really think that's more suited for a Capcom versus Capcom thing. Is that the news that had recently came out, which made me glad that I waited after Urian come out, is you have the god himself, Akira Nishitani, over there on the Japanese version of the CFN, talking about Street Fighter EX. So all these people screaming about Skullomania and have never played Street Fighter EX in your damn lives, I think you might be getting your wish soon. You might be getting that. You may be just getting your Street Fighter EX character. Maybe. I don't know who that Street Fighter EX character should be. Honestly, I think that character should personally be Hokuto because she is the character that makes the most sense. Is that when you think about it from a gameplay perspective, Hokuto would probably be the most interesting character from Street Fighter EX to introduce first. Because she is one of the main characters of the series, arguing her brother Kyrie possibly, is that character that you would bring in, and then you would follow up with Blur Dame after that, and then maybe, in this weird dream sense of mine, is you got Ono and you got what's that man's name, Lord? I cannot think of it. Harada. Thank you, brain, for taking 5 seconds to think of that. Is that Ono Harada best friends? If they can somehow, like, in this weird triangle of shit, get me an arcade perfect version of Fighting Lair that let me play as these boss animals, yes, please. Yes, please. I'm like, because if you don't know, Fighting Lair was co-produced by Namco. And because everybody's friends and everybody gets along, yes, please. Arcade version of Fighting Lair. Fuck with you, boy. I appreciate that. I really would. But I'm like, what else are they doing over there? That we talked about Ruby, we talked about the Marvel shit, we talked about Street Fighter EX, and we talked about all the stuff that they're not canonizing. The one thing that I want them to do, if I want somehow for somebody to retcon Captain Commando to be canon to Street Fighter, which ultimately would then make it canon the final fight, which never made sense, but then that would have something a whole lot to do with Crimson Viper, who should have had a Captain Commando costume in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but I will forgive that. For real, I'm forgiving, man. I can forgive that. I can. I really can. But it's like, it is amazing when it comes to the CFN. It's like how much love and care is given to those articles to really flesh out the universe. And it's like that stuff introduces so many possibilities for the future of at least this cycle of Street Fighter, of what could possibly happen. Tekken versus Street Fighter, who knows? King of Fighters 14 kicking ass. Maybe it's time for that Capcom versus SNK 3 you think you want, but already got when Street Fighter crossed Tekken and you didn't play it because of gyms or whatever. I don't know. I made this video thinking I had an answer, and I don't have one. A new story mode would be nice. Crossover characters would be amazing, but not until after they fulfilled a certain quota that you at least get Sakura in there somewhere, because I think she's involved in the story mode or some shit, and I don't know. Damn, I just thought of that. Street Fighter EX characters are actually canon because one of the notes says that when in the middle of the story mode that Zangief gave his pizza to somebody, that was Darwin Meister. See, I'm glad I remember that. So Street Fighter EX characters are canon to Street Fighter now, so because if you don't remember when I reviewed all 3 of the games, I made it quite clear that the Street Fighter EX games take place in an alternate cutoff where Street Fighter Alpha would be. So in that canon, it would be Street Fighter 1, Street Fighter EX, and then whatever happens after that versus Street Fighter 1, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 2, and then Street Fighter 4, 5, 3. That's a lot of fucking numbers. Oh boy, I'm hot. But yo, I'm like, this has been an interesting trip. And it's like, it's like, it's some changes happening around here, you know what I'm saying, that I don't want to get into on this video right now. But a lot of those changes will positively affect what it is that I can do and what I present. I'll just say that. Is that it's a lot of these coming out in a minute. It's like Ghost is over. Ghost is over. I'm just waiting to see the crossover episode with X-Aid before I have my final thoughts, and then I'll be right back after that, after I fucking watch X-Aid. Me and Jay have to tell you about the TV that's about to come on, because I'll have no time to watch all these damn TV shows, so I'm doing the best I can to get caught the fuck up. I really wish I had more time to finish Jukin Sentai Geki Ranger, because that show's amazing, and I stopped at a crucial point in the show where the show was about to take a turn, so I would like to sit down and fucking finish it. I just got shit to do. How about that? For these nuts. I just got shit to fucking do. But I'm glad I was able to take this time out of my busy schedule, when I should be writing the cool, which you should be reading over there, over at triple-the-guy.blogspot.com, over Existence according to Triple the G.O.D, the best blog in the business. You know how we do. It's that, yo. All in all, to sum up this whole video, I just want to see Season 2 do better than Season 1. Because, again, I really think Street Fighter V could have waited till right about nowish to release with all this shit in it. Because it has been a long, hard road between the game not being finished and people hacking the motherfucker and all that old shit, and then Capcom wanted to take over your system with a fucking rootkit and all so crazy shit, and your fighting game Messiah said the word nigga on accident purpose because he hang with soft niggas. I don't know. But what the future is for this damn video game is anybody's guess. What the future is when it comes to anything that concerns me, because again, like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't have a right to speak on balance changes. I don't have a right to speak on anything of a game that I have never touched in my life, but want to really bad, along with KOF 14 and Guilty Gear and the new Central Fiction, and hopefully they get that dub situation sorted out or whatever the fuck going on, and all the other fighting games coming out. And speaking of, Dear Arc System Works, why did you have to make unlocking characters in One Piece Great Power Coliseum such a fucking chore? It's like, I'm like, that's a whole video, but for 2 seconds, since I have the time to say this, unlocking Z-Assist in Extreme Butoden was at least fun. In One Piece, you answering questions in Japanese, and you gotta go to the right islands and shit. No one has time. I just want to play with the full roster so I can explore this game, do some gangsta ass combos, and then put them on the fucking internet. But you making that hard. You're making that hard for your boy, and I do not appreciate it. Speaking of, I got some lost footage that I found that I want to get out to the internet, so be watching for that once I can get my hands on it. But that's it. That's it. I have said my piece. I want to see Season 2 do better than Season 1, and I really want them, because they really going to have to do something to, like, get me to want to, like, legitimately want to get my copy from J back. To not to just start it. To be in a world where I wish that I could play it. So, crossover characters. New story. A Capcom vs. Capcom spinoff, and all that old cool stuff. And, you know, continue to make a decent game. Hopefully be the game that we wanted it to be in the first place. That's it, and that's all. Whew, that was a thing, I guess. I will be back, tomorrow sometime, because we'll be talking about Clash of Champions, because I talk about wrestling pay-per-views now. I do that, so you should watch. I talk about wrestling pay-per-view now. I'm like the Wu-Tang in this bitch. Diversify your bonds, nigga. That's what we doing over here. Diversifying our bonds. Get your fingers in all the pies. Stick them in every single pie you can. And then, like I said, we got the Ghost thing. Me and Jay with the fall, with your fall look at all the good TV shows coming out and reviewing all the summer stuff and things like that. So we'll have all of that for you. Got the G.O.D joint, the XA joint dropping, all that stuff. And once I get back to some normalcy, we'll get back to some King of Fighters. And once we get back to some normalcy and I understand what the fucking word means, I'll think about sharing something personal with the internet about what that word means to my current existence. Now I'm done. Well, alrighty. I'm going to go play One Piece now when I unlock characters in Japanese, and then we're going to talk about that game when I unlock all the characters. How about that for these? Alright, I'm out of here. You know what it is. It's the one and the only, the triple, the G.O.D. And of course, I'd like to thank you for joining me for another episode of Triple the Guy Speaks On. And with that, I'll holler at you guys next time, man. Peace out.